The night was thick with silence when suddenly a desperate, piercing cry shattered the stillness. Officer Blake was patrolling the outskirts of the sleepy town when his partner Rex lunged forward, dragging him forcefully into the shadowy woods. The cold wind whipped through the trees as Blake stumbled, struggling to keep up. "Rex! Stop! What is it?" Blake called out, but the dog's fierce determination only intensified. Branches scratched his face. The ground beneath was uneven and treacherous. Something unseen had triggered Rex's instincts, sending the pair spiraling into a heart-pounding chase. Little did Blake know, what they were about to uncover would shock the entire town to its core. The woods swallowed them in darkness, the only sound, Rex's urgent growls and Blake's heavy breaths. Rex abruptly stopped, nose twitching, ears erect as he caught an elusive scent. Blake's chest heaved as he looked around the thick woods, heart pounding with a mix of fear and curiosity. "What is it, Rex?" he whispered. In the distance, a faint flicker of light teased through the darkness, a flashlight beam, weaving erratically between trees. The woods, once silent and still, now seemed alive with unseen eyes and whispered threats. Blake tightened his grip on the leash. The night had changed. They were no longer alone. A sudden crash echoed sharply through the trees, making Blake freeze. Rex growled low, fur bristling. "Stay close," Blake murmured, hand tightening on the leash. The flashlight's beam darted erratically, revealing snapped twigs and disturbed earth. Blake's instinct screamed. Something was out there watching. The woods felt suffocating, as if the shadows themselves breathed, waiting. Yet, despite the growing dread, Blake pushed forward. They had to uncover the truth hiding in the darkness. From the silence came a faint whimper. Blake snapped his head toward a moonlit clearing. Beneath the brush gleamed a rusted animal trap, its cruel jaws stained and ominous. "They're setting traps here," Blake whispered grimly. Rex circled, low growls rumbling. The discovery sent a chill deeper than the night's cold. This was no accident. Someone was hunting, someone dangerous. The woods, and the town beyond, held secrets darker than Blake ever imagined. Suddenly, Rex lunged toward a dense thicket. Branches snapped as Blake pushed through. His breath caught, a small figure cowered in the shadows. A young girl, dirty and trembling. "Hey, it's okay," Blake said softly, kneeling beside her, heart pounding. The girl's eyes flickered with fear and relief. How had she ended up here? What horrors had driven her to this forsaken place? The night's nightmare was just beginning, and Blake knew the truth they uncovered would shake the entire town. After the initial shock, Officer Blake knelt beside the trembling girl, wrapping his jacket gently around her small shoulders. Rex sat quietly nearby, alert and watchful, his eyes sharp as he scanned the dark woods. The girl's voice was barely a whisper as she introduced herself as Lily, her breath ragged and uneven. Blake's heart clenched. She was far too young and vulnerable to be alone out here. The night's chill bit at their skin, but the warmth of human connection sparked faint hope. Blake looked at Rex, who let out a low protective growl. "We're going to get you safe, Lily," Blake said softly, his voice steady despite the rising tension. In that fragile moment, a silent pact formed between man, dog, and child, a bond forged in fear and courage. Blake helped Lily to her feet, supporting her fragile frame as she swayed unsteadily. Her story emerged in small broken pieces. She had fled from something terrifying, lost and alone in the wilderness. Blake's mind raced with questions. Who was chasing her, and why? Rex gently nuzzled Lily's trembling hand, sensing her fear and offering quiet comfort. "You're safe now," Blake reassured her, scanning the surrounding darkness for signs of danger. Every rustle of leaves and distant snap of branches seemed to echo ominously. The officer's instinct screamed caution, but there was no turning back. They had to press forward toward safety and answers. They moved cautiously through the thick woods, Blake's hand firmly on Lily's shoulder and the other gripping Rex's leash. The crunch of leaves underfoot was the only sound breaking the heavy silence. Blake's thoughts churned. Who had abandoned this child? What kind of nightmare had chased her into the forest? Rex's ears twitched constantly, alert to every whisper of movement. Suddenly, faint voices echoed distantly, growing louder and more urgent. Blake froze, signaling the others to stay quiet. The woods felt alive, watching them, closing in. The small group was now caught in a dangerous game far bigger than any of them had imagined. The voices grew closer, fragmented, urgent, filled with anger and fear. Blake's grip on Rex's leash tightened as the dog growled a low warning. "Stay behind me," Blake instructed Lily quietly, a protective shield. Suddenly Rex stiffened, pulling toward a thick brush from where the voices came. Blake's breath hitched. Someone was out there watching them, ready to strike. Heart pounding, muscles coiled for confrontation, Blake scanned the shadows for movement. The woods felt suffocating, a trap closing in. The fragile safety Blake promised Lily seemed to evaporate in the growing menace surrounding them. Suddenly, a young man burst from the shadows, collapsing onto his knees near them, face streaked with dirt and sweat, eyes wild with desperation. Blake raised a hand slowly, signaling Rex to calm. The man gasped out a frantic warning. "They're coming. They won't stop." Lily clung tightly to Blake's jacket, her fear raw and palpable. The chilling truth settled over them like a shadow. The woods hid more than secrets. Danger was closing in fast, threatening to consume them all. Blake exchanged a glance with Rex, a silent vow passing between them. Together, they would protect Lily, confront the darkness, and uncover the terrifying truth, no matter the cost. The night deepened as Blake helped the young man to his feet, his mind racing with the urgency of their plight. The man, gasping for breath, introduced himself as Mark, a local who had been running from a shadowy group stalking the woods. Blake's eyes narrowed. This was bigger than a lost child or a stray dog. Rex growled low, sensing the growing threat. "We have to move quickly," Blake said, voice steady but urgent. The woods around them felt alive with hostile eyes, every rustle amplified. With Lily clinging tightly to his jacket and Mark beside them, Blake steeled himself. The safety they sought was slipping farther away, swallowed by the encroaching darkness and danger. Mark's whispered story sent chills down Blake's spine, a ruthless group hunting anyone who stumbled upon their dark secrets, using the forest as a deadly trap. Blake glanced at Rex, who stiffened, nostrils flaring as he picked up a scent on the wind. "They're close," Blake said grimly. Every sense was on high alert now. The distant snap of a branch made Lily flinch. Blake pulled her close, shielding her. The woods no longer felt like a refuge. They were a maze of threats. As they pressed forward, every shadow seemed to conceal a new danger, every footstep a potential trap. Survival meant staying one step ahead of a merciless enemy. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed through the trees, too deliberate to be an accident. Rex growled fiercely, lunging toward the sound. Blake held tight, heart pounding. From behind a dense thicket, a figure emerged, masked, silent, watching. The air thickened with menace. "Get back!" Blake warned, pulling Lily and Mark close. The forest seemed to close in, the shadows now alive with unseen threats. Blake's voice was steady but fierce. "We won't be your prey." The standoff felt eternal, the dangerous silence stretching before the inevitable confrontation. Blake took a cautious step forward, hands raised in a gesture of peace but ready to defend. "We don't want trouble," he said firmly. The masked figure didn't respond, but the tension broke with a sudden rustle as more figures emerged, shadowy shapes closing in like predators. Blake's heart raced, instincts screaming fight or flight. Lily clung tighter to his leg. Rex growled louder, stance protective. The forest had become a battleground, every second charged with peril. Blake knew that survival meant more than courage. It meant outsmarting the darkness that sought to consume them. With a sudden burst of movement, the figures lunged forward. Blake shouted commands, pulling Lily behind him as Rex sprang into action, teeth bared, muscles coiled to protect. The forest erupted into chaos, shouts, growls, and crashing footsteps echoing between the trees. Blake fought fiercely, adrenaline surging as he shielded the girl and deflected blows. Time blurred, survival became pure instinct. Despite the overwhelming odds, Blake's determination burned fierce. He would protect the innocent, face the darkness, and bring light to the terrifying secrets lurking just beyond the trees. After the fierce confrontation, Blake, Lily, Mark, and Rex retreated deeper into the woods, hearts pounding and breaths ragged. The danger wasn't over. The shadowy figures had vanished, but their threat lingered. Suddenly, Rex froze, nose twitching aggressively. Blake's gaze followed the dog's stare and caught a glint beneath a fallen log. Crawling forward, Blake uncovered a small dirt-covered box, its contents hidden beneath layers of grime. He pried it open, revealing a collection of old faded photographs and a worn leather-bound journal. The images depicted the missing townsfolk, some with haunting expressions. A chilling realization gripped Blake. These woods hid not just dangers, but long-buried secrets threatening to unravel the town's dark past. Blake flipped through the fragile journal pages, his eyes widening with horror. The journal chronicled a secret society operating in the town decades ago, one responsible for disappearances and dark rituals deep in these woods. Names of missing people matched the photographs. The words revealed betrayals, cover-ups, and a pact made with forces no one dared speak of. Lily clung to Blake's arm, her fear deepening. Mark's face paled as he recognized some names. Blake's voice was grim as he whispered, "This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about exposing a darkness that's poisoned this town for generations." The weight of truth settled heavy on them all. Suddenly, a sharp snap echoed nearby, breaking their concentration. Blake immediately signaled silence as Rex growled low, muscles tensed. From behind the trees emerged an elderly woman, eyes fierce yet sorrowful. She introduced herself as Agnes, a lifelong resident who'd secretly guarded the forest's secrets. Agnes revealed that the society's dark rituals had cursed the woods, dooming anyone who stumbled upon their remnants. She warned Blake that the town's safety depended on keeping these secrets buried, but Blake was determined to bring the truth to light. The stakes had shifted. The battle was no longer just physical, but spiritual and moral. Agnes led them to a hidden clearing, where strange symbols were etched into the earth, surrounded by charred remnants of candles and bones. The air was thick with an unsettling energy. Blake's skin prickled as he surveyed the ancient markings, a tangible connection to the town's haunted history. Agnes explained that breaking the curse required confronting the past and exposing the truth to the townsfolk. Blake glanced at Rex, who growled softly, sensing the weight of their mission. Lily tightened her grip on Blake's hand. The moment marked a turning point. The fight was no longer just for survival, but for redemption and justice. As dawn's first light crept over the horizon, Blake knew their mission was far from over. The horrors uncovered were just the beginning, and the town's darkest secrets still lurked beneath the surface. Agnes' warning echoed in his mind. A battle for the town's soul was imminent. Yet, Blake's resolve hardened. The truth must be revealed, no matter the cost. With Lily and Mark beside him, and Rex ever vigilant, Blake stepped from the shadows into the uncertain light of morning, ready to face whatever horrors awaited, and to fight for a future free from fear and silence. The town was waking, unaware of the storm about to break. Blake, Lily, Mark, and Rex returned from the woods, the weight of the secrets they carried heavy on their shoulders. Blake knew the truth would shatter the fragile peace, yet hiding was no longer an option. The evidence in hand, the journal, photographs, and Agnes's warnings, demanded action. Blake called an urgent meeting with the town's leaders, determined to confront the corruption and darkness rooted deep within the community. As the sun rose higher, a palpable tension rippled through the air. This was the moment everything would change, and nothing would be the same again. Inside the meeting room, Blake laid out the chilling evidence, the secret society's history, the disappearances, and the ongoing threat hidden in plain sight. Murmurs grew to shocked gasps as photos of missing townsfolk flashed across the screen. Some leaders shifted uncomfortably, others pale with guilt. "We've been living in denial," Blake said firmly. "It's time to face the truth." Lily clung to his hand, the weight of years of fear settling in her eyes. Rex growled softly, sensing the tension. The room was split between those who wanted justice and those desperate to bury the past, and Blake knew this confrontation was just the beginning of a much deeper fight. As the meeting erupted into heated debate, accusations flew like arrows. Some townsfolk demanded immediate action, while others warned of chaos if the past was dredged up. Blake stood firm, urging calm and unity. Suddenly a voice rose above the rest. It was Agnes, stepping forward to recount her harrowing experiences and the sacrifices made to protect the town. Her words were raw and compelling, stirring something deep in the room. The truth was no longer abstract, it was personal. Blake could see the tide turning, but he knew the road ahead would be fraught with resistance and danger. Outside the meeting, tensions simmered. A faction of townspeople had gathered, some angry, others fearful. Blake and Mark moved through the crowd, offering reassurances while listening to whispered threats. Rex remained close, ears alert to every sound. Suddenly, a scuffle broke out. Old wounds and fears erupted into violence. Blake stepped between the factions, voice steady but commanding order. "This fight isn't against each other. It's against what's been hidden for too long." The moment was fragile, a delicate balance between descent into chaos and hope for healing. As night fell, Blake stood on the town's edge, looking back at the buildings now veiled in darkness and suspicion. The battle had only just begun. Lily's small hand found his, a silent reminder of what was at stake. Mark's quiet determination echoed his own. Rex's steady presence was a beacon in the growing uncertainty. Blake breathed deeply, eyes sharp and focused. They would face the coming storm together, united by truth, courage, and an unyielding will to protect the innocent. The fight for the town's soul was far from over, but Blake vowed it would not be lost. Days blurred into nights as Blake, Lily, Mark, and Rex plunged deeper into uncovering the town's hidden horrors. Every fragment of evidence pieced together a haunting mosaic of betrayal, corruption, and silence that had suffocated the community for decades. Meetings in shadowed rooms, whispered conversations in back alleys. The weight of truth pressed heavily on Blake's shoulders. But despite the looming darkness, flickers of hope glimmered. Trusted allies emerged, sharing information and lending strength. Blake's eyes hardened with resolve. Exposing the rot beneath their town was the only path to justice and healing, no matter the danger or sacrifice ahead. The town council convened amid rising unrest, the chamber filled with murmurs and heavy silence. Blake stepped forward, laying out the damning evidence with unflinching clarity. The photographs of missing townsfolk, the journal's dark revelations, Agnes' eyewitness accounts. Some faces turned pale, others flushed with anger or shame. The weight of denial clashed with the undeniable facts, fracturing old alliances and awakening new fears. "We must act, or we risk losing everything," Blake implored. Outside, the townspeople gathered in cautious solidarity, their whispered hopes carried on the autumn breeze. The fragile seed of change had been planted. The meeting erupted in a storm of voices. Fear clashed with anger, desperation with denial. Accusations flew like daggers, old wounds torn open anew. Blake's steady voice cut through the chaos, urging calm and focus. Then Agnes rose, her voice trembling but fierce as she recounted the town's dark history, her sacrifices, the curse woven into the forest, and the price paid in silence. Her words pierced the room, stirring raw emotion and a collective reckoning. The abstract became painfully real. Blake could see the tide turning, but he knew the path to redemption would be long, fraught with resistance and peril. Under a twilight sky, Blake returned to the forest's edge, its secrets still alive in the shadows. The clearing Agnes revealed lay silent, the ancient symbols barely visible but still etched deep in the earth's memory. Blake knelt reverently beside the sacred ground, feeling the weight of history and loss. Rex sat silently, nostrils twitching as if sensing the lingering presence of the past. Blake whispered a vow: to protect the town, honor the fallen, and never let silence reign again. The battle for truth was far from over, but hope flickered in the gathering dusk, fragile and fiercely guarded. Back in town, the streets breathed tentative life. Blake stood outside the police station, watching Lily laugh and play with children she'd never dared approach before. Mark organized patrols, his calm presence a reassurance against the lingering shadows. Rex lay at Blake's feet, ever watchful but relaxed for the first time in weeks. The scars remained, silent reminders of battles fought in darkness. But beneath it all was a steady heartbeat of resilience, courage, and renewal. Blake knew that darkness would always linger, but with light, truth, and unity, the town's soul could heal and endure. The fight was far from finished, but victory, fragile and precious, had begun. As the sun slowly slipped below the horizon, bathing the town in a warm amber glow, Officer Blake stood quietly at the edge of the forest. The same woods that had harbored dark secrets and whispered threats now softened by the fading light. Beside him, Rex sat attentively, muscles relaxed but eyes ever watchful, a steadfast guardian in the gathering dusk. Lily clung gently to Blake's hand, her small fingers trembling slightly, but her eyes shining with a fragile hope, tempered by the shadows she'd witnessed. The air was thick with a solemn stillness, charged with quiet determination. Blake's voice broke the silence in a low, steady tone. "We've come this far together, but the night's shadows are never fully gone. We remain vigilant. The soul of this town depends on it." His words lingered in the cool evening air, a promise forged in hardship and courage, binding them all to a shared future. Back within the heart of the town, a memorial stood solemnly in the central square, a quiet sanctuary to honor those lost in the shadows and forgotten by time. Flickering candles cast dancing lights upon fresh bouquets of flowers, their gentle glow mingling with the cool evening breeze. Blake walked slowly among the names, etched in stone, fingertips tracing letters worn by years and weather. Lily's small voice, barely above a whisper, asked, "Will they be safe now?" Kneeling to meet her gaze, Blake smiled softly, his eyes steady with reassurance. "We'll keep watch, Lily. Together, we protect what remains." Rex nudged her hand gently, grounding them in the gravity and tenderness of the moment. Though the past weighed heavily, their unity kindled a flame of hope, a beacon shining through the lingering darkness. That night, under a vast star-studded sky, Blake found himself alone on a weathered bench just beyond the town's edge. The journal lay open in his lap, pages filled with stories of loss, courage, and hidden truths flowing through his thoughts like a river. Each name, each secret uncovered, etched itself deeper into his soul. Rex lay faithfully at his feet, resting his head gently on Blake's knee, a constant presence through every battle and quiet moment. Beyond the edge of the forest, the trees whispered softly in the night breeze, reminders that some shadows never fully fade. Yet Blake's resolve remained unshaken. "The night may never fully leave us," he murmured, voice low and steady, "but the light we carry will always burn brighter." In that silent vigil, peace settled, fragile, fiercely guarded, and real. As dawn's first light began to touch the horizon, soft pastel hues spilled gently over the waking town. Blake rose from his vigil, eyes sweeping the peaceful streets, alive once more with cautious activity. Lily ran toward him, her face bright with pure, unburdened joy, innocence restored despite the scars beneath. Mark followed close behind, his steady presence a silent pillar of strength. Rex bounded ahead, tail wagging in the crisp morning air. The battles they fought had shaped their souls, but had not defined their future. Breathing in the fresh morning light, Blake spoke softly, voice brimming with hope. "We carry the light forward. It's that light that will see us through." Their faces reflected the promise of new beginnings, fragile, precious, and fiercely alive. As the day unfolded, Blake stood at the town's overlook, gazing over rooftops and fields bathed in golden sunlight. The scars etched in the earth and in hearts remained visible, silent reminders of battles fought in shadows. But so too did the resilient spirit that refused to be broken. The forest's dark secrets had been brought into the light, and while shadows still lingered on the edges, the town's heart beat steady and strong. Blake's voice, carried softly on the wind, was both a vow and a promise. We will never forget. We will never falter. The night may test us, but dawn always follows. And with that, the story closed, not with a final end, but with the steady, enduring pulse of hope.